Hey all, Steve from GuitarNiche here. On the bench we have a rather used and abused Gibson B-25, early 70s, 72 to 75. Yeah, it's seen better days, and we're doing a little work on it. So the reason we know what the year is this dark outer binding here was later, as was the decal logo. There's a volute in the back here too. No veneer on the face, and a couple other telltales. But man, this thing has seen some action. It's got a nice war wound there. Not sure what that was from. It might have been a pick holder, actually. I would say that's from a pick holder. That was where the glue probably destroyed the finish, and then somebody tried to fix it. Anyway, the task at hand is to replace or repair the bridge, because it was lifted up. It was like really badly just separated. You know, there's no way it's anyway. And this bridge, let's have a look at this. Hey, look at that. Look at the stuff going on there. That's awesome. This is actually the way it came off. And it took one quick blow with a block and a hammer, and it popped right off. I don't know what the heck was holding that on to begin with, but it just popped right off. And so the challenge is, how do we repair this? But let's take it a step further, because I'll explain how I got to this point, which is the process of getting ready to actually glue everything back together. And you'll notice that there's this piece of tape on the top, of course, with the registration marks for a diamond plate, bridge plate underneath. This is a XX brace top, flat top. And all I did to find these registration marks for the bracing on the outside, I just took a sticky note, and I held it in place against the inner part, or the corner of the bracing on the inside, and then bent over one of the flaps until it seemed like it fit, and then I refined it and popped a couple registration points, and then used another sticky for the other side, and was able to reproduce the geometry of what's underneath fairly accurately. Now, what's under here, we're going to get to that in a moment. And I want to make a comment here that this is not something that I normally do. My specialty is in playability and technical things. Restorative stuff is not my cup of tea. And this is actually a really good candidate for what I like to call my limits, because it's time investment and stuff like that. There's some glue on the headstock because apparently this wing came off and the owner glued it back on. We're going to see if we can clean that up. Anyway, at the same time, I don't mind taking on a little challenge. And the challenge at this point is, how do we deal with what's going on inside? Because I mentioned to the owner that depending on the condition of the bridge plate, it may be a bigger job than not a big job. Now, it might not look too bad from this angle, but it's not perfect. And yeah, it's not good. If you look close, it's not good. And to make matters even more interesting, when we look close here, I'm gonna take off this registration tape on the top because I'm done with it anyway. And we'll get rid of that. Let's have a good look at what's going on top. And yeah, that's these holes here are so compromised, they go right through, just like the holes have been exaggerated in the bridge. The idea being you want to create a relief for the ball end and improve the angle over the saddle by the just by way of explanation. This is the saddle, And yeah, it's pretty low. It's because the neck needs to be reset. But again, that's something that's just not my cup of tea, but we're going to make it work. And the thinking is this. I can do something with the bridge plate. Something that is permanent, semi-permanent. So I created this patch for underneath, and I wanted to use something that was cohesive or contiguous wood, like solid wood, but this is not hard enough. This is pine, and I'm not comfortable with that. So I wound up duplicating it with this, which is a fiberboard. And this was actually harvested out of a clipboard. But the thing is, it's hard. My concern is I want to maintain as much flexibility in the top, but I need a hard surface for those ball ends to rest on when they're finally inserted. If I were to use this spruce, it would tear through that spruce in no time and you'd be back to the same old problem. So, how is this going to all kind of fit together, you might say? Well, give me a moment. Let's see if I can get this back in. Okay. So, believe it or not, that replacement plate is a pressure fit for the moment, and I got lucky. The fact is, I got lucky, and it's dead center over the pinholes here. It's not too wide. It's going to just shore up the bridge plate, or the whole bridge system, I should say. And once we get this thing, I'm going to repair that too. I'll fix that up. And once we get this thing all glued back in place, it should be structurally solid. That's the goal. Anyway, so how are we going to get there? Well, the next step is going to be mixing up some filler for these holes, because if I just leave those the way they are, that's just going to be a bad deal. I mean, they have to be filled and then reprocessed. I don't mind putting a small notch in there when it's all done. But I'll just mix up some glue and some sawdust and stuff, and make a paste and fill those holes. And but the first step will be gluing that other the replacement or the patch plate in place first, glued up, and a clamp over here, and then I'll just throw some filler in the holes, and we'll mill them out after set up, and basically kind of follow the same process with this. I'll wind up using CA glue and rosewood dust for this. Got to work fast here because I just mixed up some spruce paste and glue, and now I'm going to but before I continue, there's the registration points that I tested while the plate was underneath, so it's nice and centered. And I'm just going to give this a real generous dab of glue. The beauty of this is that at some point in the future, this can be removed using whatever techniques are appropriate. And I'm not going to be overly pretty about this, because I'm going to put a lot of glue on this, because I'm not going to try to saturate the inside at the same time, so this is going to have to do double duty. But once it's in, it's in. Hopefully I can get this in without too much issue. That should be good there. That should be good there. Great. Okay, so that is on the stickum side of things. I'm going to give it a real quick clean. We got to work fast here because the working time for the glue is roughly 15 minutes. The longer you take, the less effective the product is going to be. I think that'll do. So I'm going to go direct down on the corner here with this homemade, I should say, clamp that I inherited from an old guitar maker in town, in my neck of the woods. And am I worried about the center? Not so much. Not so much. I want to get these outside corners started before anything else. Just resituate that a little bit. There we go. So we're trying to maximize distribute the pressure as evenly as we can. Now we're going to take some of this paste, and I'm going to be pretty generous with it to start with. Once it starts to dry out, it'll shrink back a little bit, so we want to take that into consideration. I'm not trying to fill the holes so much as fill the leading edge of that void at the front end of the pinhole, or the bridge pin, you might say. So I've got a little drill bit here, which I'm going to use to just pack things in there really good. Not concerned about the exact size. I'm more concerned about making sure that the leading edge of that bridge pin hole, oh, there's a good squeeze out, is packed in well. And I'll just hit that again. And this will all sand off pretty. Once it's set, I can use a chisel or whatever. Make sure that that's set. Good. This is just a piece of 1x2 that I cut on a diagonal. And this makes a great jack for taking pressure off the back end of the clamps, so that we don't introduce any kind of distortion or anything like that. There we go. Anything that takes some of the pressure off that amount of weight that's pulling down on the top. We want to keep the top free from distortion. Anyway, it kind of looks like a Frankenstein sort of thing, but at the end of the day, it should be just fine. Okay, we're just trying to stabilize the top and bridge plate and take care of some deterioration. Next step is getting at the bridge. All right, so we'll be back and see how this goes. This Gibson B-25 bridge, which as far as I can tell is the original bridge, because after early 70s, I think it was 1970, the bridge would have been oriented like belly up with the slot up here, but this is accurate for the time period. Regardless, these notches here are in bad shape. It's ugly, so we're going to try to repair that a little bit. And what I'm going to use is perhaps a little rosewood and a little light mahogany. We're going to start with the mahogany, because I think that's going to darken up to the point where we can say it's no, on second thought. And don't worry about the ugly. I mean, like, as long as it doesn't get in the slot, I could care less. I just want to get that dust in the must, which is filling that slot. And I don't necessarily want to fill the slot entirely. I just want to reconstitute it a fair bit. I know this looks ugly, really ugly, and it is. Oh boy, there we go. we got spillage, but it's not going to be a problem as long I can still clean out the slot if it gets in the slot. I'm just trying to get at this real fast. If I can do one, I can do the rest. Let's hit that real fast. The beauty of this is that the CA glue sets up so fast. And it'll be close enough to the surface because this type of wood, the rosewood, it's oily, it's dense like me. And it won't let the glue penetrate beyond a certain point, you might say. Not too bad. Getting there, getting there. You can see there's a spot in there that's not hit with the glue. And I'm not trying to, keep in mind, I'm not trying to reconstitute the entire hole. I just want to take out, some of that ugly that's there. And that, you see that? That's already dry. That's crazy. Sorry if I'm moving around a little bit, but out of camera, but it is what it is. This is how effective this product can be under certain circumstances. I'm going to be real generous with this because there you go. Now this is a nice powder from multiple jobs that I've done in the past. Yeah, that's good. Boy, it's fragrant. I can smell the glue. That's a fact. Did we get in the slot? Doesn't matter. No, it's good. Okay. See that? That's already set. And that is a wonderful thing. So at this point, I'm just going to take a file, just a fairly coarse file, and just see what I can get off of that. What we need to get flush. I'm not really being careful not to distort the actual face of the thing. It's not bad. And I can do the same on the top because, like I said, I will go back and I'll clean that up with some sandpaper and stuff. Good. Good, 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 good. A little sanding block. So that's fairly flush. And that hole is coming back to life. Very nice. I'll hit the top of that too. Okay, so that I just gave that little scooch. I'll drop a little bit of powder. Count to 3 and that'll be cured. It's really that fast. Un, deux, trois. Welcome to Canada. Oui. Okay. And look at that. Now, once we clean that up with some finer materials and stuff, that is going to look just dandy. You can see some some darkness there. That will all come away once the surface is down a few more thou, and it'll blend in just gorgeous. Okay, so we're going to have a nicely reconstituted hole, so to speak, on both sides. Okay, and once we're at that point where things have been taken care of, we'll give you another shot at it. So basically, I'm just going to go through the same process for each hole. Okay, and like I said, I'm not too worried about the actual notch here, because I'm going to recut that notch to a degree, but perhaps a little bit more even, a little bit more clean, because the string has to pass over the saddle. The saddle is so low, we want to increase or get as much break angle coming out of that saddle as possible. It's more important on the outer strings, because there's always that arc in the middle. And yeah, anyway, we'll get there. But not a bad first attempt. I think the rest of them should go just fine. Okay, when we're done, and we'll have at it. So here is our Gibson B-25 bridge, reconstituted, you might say. It is a little bit of junk on the bottom, but I'm not going to worry about that. I want the majority, 99, 95, 99% of the plate there is going to stick really well. There's some discoloration, as expected, from the using the CA glue and the rosewood dust to reconstitute the voids and stuff. But overall, it turned out really, really well, and it should look just fine. As I mentioned, I just used a pretty straightforward series of sandpaper and finishes to get it to where it is, and that was to start off was like 80 grit to take down the rough stuff, and then on to 220, 600, and finished up with 1500, and then hit it with a coat of very, very light lemon oil, that is mineral oil, by Wyman's, one of my favorite. Jeez, I went looking for this recently. Boy, it's hard to find, and it's expensive, but it is the best. I have to rant. It's the thing. The reason I like it is because it's so thin, it penetrates, but then over time, it does dissipate, and it just leaves a wonderful patina, and the wood itself is the surface looks really keen, and it turned out pretty good. So that's my story, and on to the next bit of getting it glued in place and the instrument back into playing condition. Back to our bridge and bridge plate restoration of sorts on this early 70s Gibson B-25. A couple things I noticed was this being a really, really nice piece of what I believe to be Brazilian rosewood. It's dense and works beautifully, but it has to be roughed up to the point where it can hold a tack, meaning it has to be primed so that the glue will stick properly to it. And I used fairly coarse, I think it was 80 grit or something on this to get it where it is, and it loves it loves that grit. And there's still some junk and stuff that's got to come off on that. Now, to make things more interesting, this repair here, I believe I don't think this is an original glue job. This is actually a layer of glue on here, and I got to get down underneath. I got to, in other words, remove the glue, and you can see a little bit of where I tested to see how, it's not very thick, but it's got to come off. Simple as that. So I gotta I gotta take off that junk because you know you're sticking to old glue is not a good plan. As far as the new bridge plate goes, or the reinforcement you might say, well, that turned out just fine. You know, it's not obtrusive. It should do just dandy. I didn't want to cover the whole surface because it's overkill, and it's designed to come out if it has to. It's not epoxied in, it's just good old-fashioned type on. And the steps after this will be to, for one, I need to register the original bridge, meaning I want to maximize its placement, which will mean I'm going to use some selected drill bits for what's already been there. This is 30 seconds, I think, and then 3/16 for that. So what I'll do is pop that one out and use this as a registration point, just for gluing purposes. At the end of the day, what as we work through the process, I'm going to, let's say, remove the glue, register the 2 points, and then drill out the rest of these. And I'm going to appease this 3/16 up to a 7/64. So a little bit bigger, because the pickup strip that's in there, it's LR Banks, I believe, and it's a little bit tight, so it can kind of squash the signal a little bit. It compromises it, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, so that's the plan. The steps, again, are going to be whatever they're going to be to get the job done. The end result is we want the bridge in as clean a plane as possible. There's going to be some leftover footprint. I'll try to hide it as best I can, but the main points are getting this old glue cleaned up, and getting the new reconstituted bridge roughed up to the point where it'll stick properly and oriented where it makes the most sense. Simple as that. Okay, anyway, we'll have at it and we'll be right back. All right, well, I'm just going to wail away on the job at hand and get her done. Okay, so we have the bridge re-glued. Turned out, well, as good as it could for the general condition of the instrument. Turned out pretty good. Actually, I'm pretty happy with it. A little bit of housekeeping yet to do. I gotta go through these holes and clean them out a little bit, but everything else is just fine. Reconstituted, all that good stuff. But the real focus here, the star of the show, is way back in there, where there's that new bridge plate, or it's not really a plate, it's just a piece to shore up the damage that did happen or has happened to the original bridge plate. So it's a backing plate, a sister plate, whatever you want to call it. But it turned out just dandy. One final step in terms of dealing with this bridge is to make sure that the pins are gonna float in those holes properly. Don't want them binding, etc. So the pins that came with the instrument were a mix of oddballs and not very good. So I found some matching or period correct, a 2A type pin with a 5-degree taper, and these should work just dandy. That, as they say, is that. Now, as far as the rest of this job goes, it's going to be compromised at the end of the day, because this instrument, it really does need it needs a neck reset, to be honest, and that's just not my cup of tea. And the owner, I don't think he loves the instrument that much, just for now. You know, it's a financial commitment that you know, has to be warranted by the owner. But we're going to get the pickup reinstalled and get the strings back on it and see what we can come up with. Make it as nicey nice as we can, all things considered. Okay, and we'll see how it goes. So here's our early 70s Gibson B-25 Deluxe. I believe it is a deluxe, but well, let's say it used to be, because it's got a lot of history, and really at this point, what it really needs, as I mentioned previously, is a neck reset, because the strings are they're just way too high. Yeah, it's playable, but it could be so much better. But again, we're gonna look at the final result here. The ball ends are secure, the plate's not overly robust, and the tone is there for what it is. Okay. Zuppa. Very nice. Okay, so, yep. Anyway, that wraps this up. How does it sound? Well, it sounds like a smaller body. Old Gibson with problems. So, I'm not gonna... I may or may not add an audio file to this, but anyway, this is our finished jobby. All right. As always, thanks for coming out. Play loud, have fun, have a great day. Like and subscribe. Read the description below for free resources and stuff. And yeah, and have a great day. Cheers.